The following is an Operation Podcast production. What was the hardest part about losing over 100 pounds?
Yeah, I think the mindset piece. Like, just eat this and don't eat that. And it seems so simple, but then what do you do when you want to self-sabotage? The environment itself can make or break a person's weight loss journey. And I find that there's a big environmental shift in December with it being darker outside and kind of just gloomier, but you still have the joy of the holidays. You're off of work. Well, there are more parties. There's also a lot of loneliness and depression that occurs. Compensate healthily, right? So a lot of people, when they gain 15 pounds in December, come January, now they think they have to do something so extreme. They think that they have to cut everything out. They go on these like wild extreme cleanses that are unsustainable, unhealthy. You bite it, you write it, you drink it, you ink it, you nibble it, you scribble it, but it's without judgment and you keep moving on.
So are you saying the best thing I could probably do to make my environment as conducive as possible, no matter where I go this holiday season, is
I'm Ilana Muhlstein, registered dietitian nutritionist, and welcome to Ever Forward Radio.
Ilana, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I got a couple icebreakers that I want to just have your nutrition expertise just go right into, okay?
Let's do it.
So without hearing them in advance, I want to have you rank these in order, like 1 through 5.
Okay.
Number 1 being the most important, 5 being not as important as number 1.
Love it.
In terms of how much they influence our relationship to food.
Great.
Okay. So time management.
Okay.
How would you rank that 1 through 5?
3.
3. Stress management.
3.
Relationship with our mother.
4.
Interesting. All right. And then relationship with a significant other in your life.
1. If we're at that, then yeah, that's 1.
She had no doubt on that one. Number 1. All right. Last, proximity to a grocery store.
1 to 2.
Okay.
Yes, I'd say grocery store. We'll say grocery store 1, spouse 2. The others in terms of relationship with mother, we can get to 5. Time management 4. Stress management 3.
Okay. Another question here. Top 3 stressors on most people's minds right now entering the holiday season as they relate to eating habits.
Yeah, a lot of people are nervous about gaining weight. You know, people are very aware and conscious that they are gaining weight and off routine in December typically. And so that stresses them out because they aren't ready to change it and they're going to push it off till January, but they're aware that it's happening. So that tends to stress them out. They tend to get stressed out by just family dynamics, like really tense, especially if they're remote workers. They haven't been as social for a long time. Then doing that big trip where everyone's reunited and you're spending some time off work, like that tends to be stressful. People get really stressed by the lack of routine or by the travels that are to come. People get stressed out if they're on a good plan and they have been consistent with their nutrition and they may have lost weight, they want to keep it up, but they know their family members are going to push them and coerce them into eating things they don't want or shame them for being on a health journey. So I think people are stressed about politics getting brought up at, Christmas dinner. So definitely December brings a lot of highs and a lot of lows. And I think people tend to be pretty stressed out throughout the month while they're trying to enjoy themselves as well.
It's interesting in all of that answer, I didn't hear you say once the type of food, the variety of food, the quantity or quality of food. Mm-hmm. It was all kind of the environment surrounding food.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that is more of the case for most people? It is the stress around the environments and the people that you're going to be potentially enjoying holiday food and dinners and parties and things like that, not so much the actual food.
Right. I break down weight loss into 3 pillars. And that's how I've always seen it. Personally, in my weight loss journey and helping clients is weight loss is a 3-pillar mode. So 1/3 of it is the food, is the actual nutrition, what to eat, what not to eat, and how you want to build your plates throughout the day. The second is your emotional responses to food. So how stressed you are. Do you eat out of loneliness? Do you eat out of boredom? Do you eat out of, panic, impulsive nature? And that's the thing. And then the 3rd pillar is your environment, because you could have low stress eating. You could be, really healthy eater. But if your environment is set up to go against your healthy habits, then that's going to be the case, right? Like if you keep soda on your counter versus a bowl of fruit, if you keep cereal and bread on your counter instead of fruit, if you don't have any fruits and vegetables in your refrigerator, if your roommates are constantly baking, if your spouse is constantly, yeah, exactly. If your spouse is constantly pushing you to drink, if you're eating mostly at restaurants, if you are traveling a ton for work, like the environment itself can make or break a person's weight loss journey. So like without the environment set up for success, the emotional and the nutrition can get you pretty far, over 60%, but that environment will play a key role. And I find that there's a big environmental shift in December with it being darker outside and like kind of just gloomier, but you still have the joy of the holidays. You're off of work. It's more travel. You're with different sorts of people. There are more parties. So there's also a lot of loneliness and depression that occurs. So the environment is a tricky thing to master in December.
Let's say I'm someone that has really done a great job recently, the last couple of weeks, couple of months, of fostering an at-home environment conducive to my current health goals, wellness goals, nutrition goals. And I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to visit friends and family. What can I do to set up the environment I'm going to be as conducive as possible without kind of rocking the boat?
Right. That's my favorite question. So I'm a big believer in the scale. I talk about my beliefs on the scale and all the evidence to prove how a scale could be very helpful, not just for weight loss, but for weight maintenance and helping people prevent weight regain after they've lost weight. So if someone's going on a trip and they have a healthy relationship with the scale and they're going on a trip that's more than 3-4 days, they could probably benefit from using the scale. Because if you're going away for 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks of December, and you're going to your parents' house or something, and it's going to be tons of comfort foods and you're on a lack of routine, hopping on the scale a few times in those last 2 weeks of the month can prevent a big 8-pound gain that you now have to face come January. It could kind of keep you in that, 1 to 3 pound weight gain range, which is something that's not as daunting, something that you can lose, something that you can just quickly get back to.
So are you saying the best thing I could probably do to make my environment as conducive as possible, no matter where I go this holiday season, is to pack a scale with me?
Yeah. They have travel scales on Amazon. They're $25. They're not much larger than an iPhone. They're smaller than a laptop. It could be so helpful to someone who has a healthy relationship with food to just keep them on track. There's a lot of research to show that it helps you just compensate healthily, right? So a lot of people, when they gain 15 pounds in December because they went off and they just shoved their face with sugar cookies and pies and things like that. Come January, now they think they have to do something so extreme. They think that they have to cut everything out. They go on these like wild extreme cleanses that are unsustainable, unhealthy. Versus if you have a scale with you through December, you say, okay, I had one too many like eggnogs. I had a little too many hot toddies. I had a couple cocktails. I had a couple of snacks, too much cheese at a cheese party, at a holiday party. Okay, the scale goes up 1.5 pounds. All right, so today I'm going to focus on having a breakfast, not skipping it. I'm going to focus on drinking more water. I'm going to focus on if I am drinking alcohol, I don't need the sugary mixers. And you then make these like slight changes to then, bring it down into a healthy range. So I'm a big believer in tracking your food, keeping a little food journal. So just having that with you in December.
Even still during the holidays?
Sure. Sure. And it's not calorie counting. It's not restrictive. It's not, using an Excel spreadsheet to count your macros. It's really just writing down the things you're eating. So it leaves room for, I had an extra cookie, I had a cocktail or two, but it's without judgment and it's just accountability. And again, it keeps you with this healthy relationship with food where you bite it, you write it, you drink it, you ink it, you nibble it, you scribble it, but it's without judgment and you keep moving on.
All right. What is the number one real life situation that you still struggle with when it comes to healthy habits?
Oh, great question. Listen, I'm a mother of 3 kids. They're young. They have their snacks all the time. They stress me out on occasion. And so I think just eating their leftovers, maybe eating a little bit more at dinner when one of them is having a temper tantrum and I'm trying to not stress eat, but like you can't ignore the tears in the corner that are probably impacting your stress hormones and your blood pressure while eating the food. So that came up yesterday, if you can't tell. It seems really
Super top
real.
of mind.
Yeah. So, definitely that, which is something I can definitely relate to my clients on. I see a lot of moms, right? So they have birthday parties and the lingering birthday cakes and all those snacks. So it definitely impacts me on occasion. I can eat quicker, sitting down, stopping for a lunch break, actually giving yourself 15 to 20 minutes in the middle of the day to have undistracted lunch times. Like that's the goal, but sometimes I eat it quickly or while watching something or multitasking, and I have those rushed, mindless eating moments.
Yeah.
So like we're all, we all have those times.
What was the hardest part about losing over 100 pounds?
Yeah, I think the mindset piece. I connect to so many people is because that mindset piece gets ignored so much in traditional diets, right? Like just eat this and don't eat that. And it seems so simple, but then what do you do when you want to self-sabotage and you get in your own way? What do you do when you encounter a really stressful situation and food has been the way out of that stressful situation for you for years in the past? What to do when a friend says, stop losing weight, you look so good, like you're getting too thin. Like, do you listen? Do you take sense out of that? Do you actually, think critically? Like there's so many people telling you to stop, telling you to, eat the things that don't serve you. So staying strong and confident through it, believing you can do it, believing you deserve to have the success that you're after, that's really the piece that takes some work.
Okay, now kind of flip question. What was the easiest part about losing 100 pounds?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm a foodie. So for me, I'm a foodie and I love volume. So for me, realizing that I was mindlessly eating buttered popcorn while watching TV, I could just take the same butter and salt and put it over broccoli and still mindlessly eat it and see some success was easy. Like that to me was easy because I love eating lots of food. So even the cloud bread cinnamon rolls on the cover of my cookbook, like those are delicious. My son is obsessed with them, and he's like 6 years old.
Which, by the way, everybody, that's when she handed me the book. That's the first thing I saw. Yeah. I immediately flipped open to the page. That's going to be the first thing I cook.
Yeah, they taste really good. It's a pure protein. It's low cal. And so for me, it was like, I could take the flavors of pizza and put it on a cloud bread pizza made out of egg whites of protein, and it's actually much larger than a slice of pizza, and it keeps me fuller longer. Like the food swaps for me were very easy. I know they're not the easiest for everyone, but for me, that was a no-brainer. Using the scale was very easy for me because I never looked at it as such an emotional definition of who I am. So when the scale goes up, I could look at it pretty objectively like, it's because I ate birthday cake last night, and it never defined me. So that was also fairly on the easy side for me.
Okay. As a mom, as we kind of look towards the future, the next generation, what are you most afraid of for the future health of our children?
Oh, so much. Thankfully, not for my own children because I've been doing this for a long time with them and the families that I help with my kids' nutrition program. Like I feel pretty confident they're going to be just great. For everyone else who is not making massive changes today with their children, I am very concerned about their kids' future. We are seeing studies that show that for the first time in human history, this next generation will not outlive their parents, that they will likely have a shorter lifespan than their parents because of nutrition. And I see it every single day with some parents in my kids' school. Like I'm not judging them. I'm genuinely concerned for them and seeing what they are feeding their kids for breakfast, for lunch, for the snacks, for dinner. It's like, these are materials that are shaping their DNA. These are the materials that are shaping their mood, their habits, their behaviors. And we see that nutrition alone can really impact a child's mental health. And right now we have social media crisis and our kids are addicted to screens and they're living more in the virtual world than they're living in the human world most of the day. So there's so many big changes that we should be concerned about, but nutrition alone can help mitigate a lot of these changes and these problems. And so I'm really concerned about this next generation and their relationship with ultra-processed foods and sugar and how their palates have been so poorly manipulated by these packaged foods. Before we started recording, we were talking about Persian food. And, we go to a school with a lot of Persian kids. And these kids will sit there on a plate eating olives, eating smoked nuts, like eating cucumbers, eating pickles, and all these delicious flavor foods, spicy stews. And then you see another kid who is snacking on an Oreo cake stir. I mean, this is nothing I've ever even seen before. It's a little kid, 5 to 6 years old. Kid weighs maybe 40 or so pounds and is eating this packaged blue snack that is not the size of an Oreo cookie. It's the size of 4 Oreo cookie sandwiches. It's called a cake stir. It's like these 2 massive cakes, which is really 4 cakes because it's a sandwich. And it has 240 calories, which I'm not concerned so much about the calories, even though that's closer to a meal.
Sugar.
It's it has
High
more
sugar, high
sugar
carb,
than a
yeah.
kid needs an entire day. There are so many unidentifiable and identifiable ingredients. They claim that these Oreos are like vegan. That's just because it doesn't have egg. It doesn't have real ingredients, you know? And these foods have so many added flavorings that are so different than flavors we find in nature. And so when you keep giving our kids these ultra processed foods with all these flavorings in it that are so unnatural, it's like their way to work back to broccoli, to chicken, to scrambled eggs. It's such a further journey. And so it's not just how these foods are hurting them chemically and also just not helping them with their growth and development. It's also just, it's manipulating their relationship with food and what food should taste like and all their expectations of what food can and should be. So I'm very, very concerned about the next generation. I think there's this collective think of whatever, they'll be fine, they'll grow out of it. And we're literally seeing in science it's absolutely not the case. We're seeing that puberty is starting so much earlier. We're seeing that like they're being so harmed by these ultra processed foods in real time. And a lot of parents, like even in Los Angeles where I live, it's just amazing how they just roll their eyes to it, or they think it's fine, or they think it's okay, or they think they grew up with it.
Or,
So
yeah, I had it as a kid and I'm fine.
right,
Yeah.
even though the formulations of these foods have changed so drastically in the last even just 20 years, these foods don't even taste the same. Like I had a Reese's peanut butter cup recently. It tastes like wax. It doesn't even taste like chocolate because they're not even using vanilla and chocolate like they used to. They're using vanillin. There's even a cocoa shortage now. So all these chocolate companies are finding all these ways to try to mimic it. It's just not the same. Like the oils used, the whole processing. If you make a dupe for a Reese's peanut butter cup at home by just melting dark chocolate and melting peanut butter, layering them in a cupcake mold and freezing them, it tastes so much better. Like it tastes like chocolate and peanut butter, which is what I remember Reese's tasting like.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
I make that for my kids all the time. I always have them in my freezers ready. So different than a packaged Reese's. It's wild.
I'm curious, in your kind of parenting technique right now, it sounds like you definitely have a lot of conditions in the favor for you and your family and your kids when it comes to the quality of food and access to food. But how are you navigating the mindset, and how are you kind of helping your children foster a healthy relationship and like the feeling, the emotional aspect, the connection to food, besides just the choices they have available?
Right. Well, there's a great example that happened last week. So right now I'm coaching my son's soccer team. Like I'm not great at soccer. They kind of twisted my arm to coach it. But I'm coaching the kids' soccer team, which is really sweet because I'm seeing all these like 5 and 6 year olds, and we're all playing soccer like twice a week now. It's very sweet. And as someone who is a dietitian who's counseled so many clients over the years, I have always had that type of client who works out so they can earn dessert, And to this day, they like literally every time they work out, they start gaining weight because they start justifying, oh, now I need my post-workout shake. And now I kind of burned calories, so I earned more calories. And they have this very toxic relationship with exercise and food. I'm very grateful. My father always worked out no matter what weight he was. Like he would cycle through diets, but exercise was a constant. And so I think I always have a healthy relationship with exercise and look at it as like a mental health thing, a good routine thing, an energizing thing, a longevity thing. And I'm really grateful for that. But seeing these, again, like the snacks that some of these parents are giving their kids right after, I mean, imagine doing a great workout, being super sweaty, getting off of a treadmill, getting off of like a workout class, and then eating just
candy,
it's
sugar,
a big bag of candy. Yeah. It's such an unhealthy relationship with food that they're fostering. And it's like, oh, you just moved your body for an hour. You get this big bag of candy. So forget that, from a cellular level, it's not ideal. I just feel like the mindset is not right. When my kids get off the field, we have water, we have string cheese. We love to go for a good meal. Like if their game ends at noon, like perfect time, let's get lunch, let's even if it's burgers, let's get burgers, but let's have a side Caesar salad with it. Like we don't need fries along with it. So things like that I think are just very, very easy and just not happening. When I was a kid, I just don't remember getting off of a court or getting off of a field and eating candy or having that be normalized. And it's shocking.
I mean, I played sports growing up, and I think the extent to which we had that kind of example you're talking about was some parents would bring Capri Suns after our baseball game. Every game the parents rotated through who brought, Powerade or orange slices or something like that. But I don't really remember getting crap.
Yeah, it's so
Capri Sun
weird.
arguably is just, sugar water.
It's not a birthday party.
No,
like they just
no.
moved their bodies.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's like an easy place to set a healthy relationship with food. And even if it is, one sugary drink, like it's Powerade, but yes, paired with an apple, paired with cheese sticks, even if it's popcorn, like it can be popcorn, it can be crackers, but so I think that's easy. Other things with my kids is we're really big on nature. There are a lot of really good studies to show that when you're stressed, when you're anxious, when you are having anxiety, go to nature. Nature will calm you. Seeing a bird fly, seeing the wind blow, it really calms your central nervous system. And when you think that things are big and they're loud and you're screaming, you're having a tantrum, we're really big in like opening the door, go sit in a thinking chair outside. And thankfully we live where it's not too cold all the time or too rainy all the time. And even if it is, that's fine. Like stomp in muddy puddles, it will really connect you back to a deep breath and to being calm. So we're really big on like, you seem really stressed out right now. You're screaming, like go outside in the thinking chair. And I think doing that and not saying, eat something or just raid the pantry.
Do this to quiet them, to shut them up, to calm the mood. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not, you're not creating stress eating habits that can happen later on if you're not giving tools and not teaching kids tools on how to calm down naturally. There's so many things. I mean, even just reading food labels. It's crazy.
You have your kids read the food label.
Absolutely.
Really?
If they can read a book, they should be able to read the food that goes into their body.
This is genius.
Yeah. My kids read a food label so beautifully. My son will be like, Mom, there's 2 grams of fiber in here. This is a good snack. I'm like, yeah, Julian, you're right.
You have them read the nutrition facts, the ingredients.
Absolutely. And it's crazy because I've posted this before. People are like, you're creating eating disorders. I'm creating intuitive eating.
Awareness and education.
Absolutely.
I'm taking a hard mental note right now. I'm going to co-sign on that idea.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Oh my gosh. This is an awesome story that I only share within my kids' nutrition program. I think this is the only other time I'm sharing. Yeah, this is my safe space where I'm sharing it. The only place that's not behind a paywall because I feel like, you got to censor troll somewhere. But it was really amazing. My daughter went to sleepaway camp this summer for the first time. And they have something called Canteen where it's basically a candy store and the kids get to go every single day and get 2 different items. So before she went to camp, I was like, a little nervous about it, but it's camp. They're working out all day. They're moving around. It's a special opportunity. I wanted to give her free range, but I also wanted to, just have a conversation with her before of what are you going to get there? This is what it looks like, So I said to her, I think for Canteen, what would make sense, you're going to have this opportunity. You get to pick 2 snacks a day. Maybe pick one that's not so healthy, but then one that is more, right? So like you have balance. So like maybe one is popcorn, that's like healthy, it's a whole grain, you see it at home. And maybe one that's, a chocolate or something.
I have to ask, did you word it that way?
Yes.
Did you go, hey, I want you to pick a healthy option and I want you to pick an unhealthy option?
And then an option that's a treat. That's more of a pure treat. So it's not bad or good. It's just that like one that's going to actually fill you up and make you feel full and be nourishing. And one that's, more like a silly, fun thing that you're just enjoying because you're in camp.
Maybe one you would pick on your own, and then one you would pick if mom was watching.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
But I've tried to empower them so they actually think nutrition's cool, and so that they actually want that healthy snack too. Because anytime my kid has a tantrum, like I said, and then they have a good meal and they feel better, I make them very aware. Like, don't you see how the protein and eating this, like, do you see how much calmer you are now? So I really try to teach them like how good food, good mood. And so that they will see when they're off in college or on a play date, when they're feeling cranky or anything, and a parent is serving stuff that they know, you know what, maybe I do need a snack. Maybe in this situation, my mom would say like, you probably need to eat something, you're hangry. So I really want them to be intuitive. Yeah. But it's very interesting because when I went to my daughter's camp to visit, she was like, Mom, look, I got the healthiest snack is the snack I've been liking all summer. So I was like, what's the snack you've been liking all summer? So she shows me instant ramen soup, which is like—
That was her healthy choice?
That was her healthy choice. And I was thinking for a second, okay, I'm not going to judge her. I'm not going to say anything because like she seems very proud right now. So I'm going to let her have her moment. And I'm like, oh, okay, like that's the healthiest choice. And then she turned it over and she showed me, and like we'll go past like the sodium count, we'll go past like all the starches and whatever is in the soup. But she showed me, she's like, Mom, look, there's 5 grams of protein in this ramen soup, and there's 2 grams, and there's 1 or 2 grams of fiber. And I'm like, heck yeah, there is. And then I looked at the selection, and we're talking literally—
Yeah, I was
like
curious.
The definition of junk. Like
was that the healthiest choice? Yeah.
Comparatively, that was literally the healthiest choice. Like, and I was mesmerized because it literally was candy, like true candy, like just corn syrup and sugar dyes, like sour sticks and like Twizzler type stuff. Then it was chips. Then it was other different fried snacks, like Dorito type things. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, and then Slurpee, like they were able to have every day if they wanted at canteen, they could have gotten a Slurpee. So all in all, she did really good.
Wow.
And it's like wild that you're saying that that's a healthy choice. And also she liked it because it was more of a activity where they get to take it, they get to go to the hot water maker, they get to fill it up, it sits for 3 minutes. So, and then they have these stringy noodles. And then she actually got one that day that I was visiting. She didn't even finish it. So honestly, all in all, it was like just a soup. And she really, on her own, with me not there, with me saying that you could get the candy, that's what she chose. And I think that's pretty cool.
That's very cool. And that's amazing. And that's what I think, even as an adult, what I always strive for, I think any of us, what we want to strive for here in my audience, at least, is given my circumstances, given my options, what is the best choice I can make to move me forward towards whatever goal I'm working on?
Yeah, and I always rather a savory snack than a sweet snack, because I find that the salty things do tend to have a little bit more protein, a little bit more fiber in there. Like the sugar stuff, it doesn't make you feel full ever. And it just makes you more addicted to sugar. Like the more sugar you eat, the more sugar you crave. So the fact that this is like the lowest sugar, highest fiber protein thing, that's awesome that she at 9 years old can read a food label better than most adults. And
I was just going to say, I feel like she's killing the nutrition facts game more than the average person out there. If you ask them to scan ingredients and nutrition facts for those keywords, what has the most fiber, what has the most protein, what has the least amount of this,
right,
they'd probably be kind of lost in the sauce a little bit,
Yeah, totally. And so I don't fear monger, like there are times where they have artificial dyes. There's times where they have, there's plenty of seed oils, there's plenty of all this stuff, but they're very educated about it when they have it. Like they even had a ice cone thing, like one of those, like it's ice and then they put the syrups over the snow cones.
Oh, snow cone, yeah.
Yeah. And, one of my kids was like, Mom, this is like really healthy because this is basically just ice because all the dye just drips to the bottom and I'm not even getting all of them. I'm like, good call. And the ice is keeping you, hydrated. Like, yeah sure. They're like, what's the syrup made out of? I'm like, it's colors, it's sugar, and it's flavoring. So it kind of tastes something like a strawberry or a blueberry. And so they're like, oh, that's not healthy. I'm like, yeah, but the fact that it's a little bit getting you to eat ice, when you look at everything else in the ice cream cabinet, it's the same sugar, it's the same flavorings, it's the same colors, but now it's like on, ice creams don't even melt anymore. They're not even ice creams. They're like these, there's so many viral videos where they're showing all these ice cream sandwiches. They never melt. It's like 2 days later, it's not even melting because they're not made with cream. They're not even ice creams.
So many preservatives kind of just keep
if you look closely at dryers and like all of these Breyers and like all these ice cream sandwiches you see in stores, it literally says like ice cream product or, a frozen dessert. Like they can't even use the term ice cream because most of them are not even made with real cream.
No way.
So yeah, so I'd say like the snow cone is the better thing. The instant soup, I'm very moderate with my relationship with nutrition. I'm not an extremist. I really don't have big nose. So I really try to foster that with my kids too. Like, yes, there's times where we have treats. Yes, there's times where we have dyes and sugars. It's a once an occasion. We enjoy it. We definitely don't make it a daily part of our day. And my kids know why. And I think they appreciate it.
That's such a fantastic point. Such a fantastic point. So kind of shifting into more of your world around weight loss, many people attempt to lose weight. And I think attempt is the key word there. Is that the best mindset when it comes to weight loss, the attempt?
Yeah, I think the problem with the word attempt is that it's unsustainable from the start, right? So my whole methodology, like when people lose weight with my program, I'm not going to say I don't care. Like I like when someone says I lost 70 pounds at your program. Obviously that lights me up, but it doesn't light me up as much as someone who says I lost 50 pounds 8 years ago and I've kept it off, So I'm not as big about the number. I'm about the sustainability. And so when people attempt to lose weight, that whole phrase sounds very short term. You need to attempt to change your lifestyle around getting you to be a healthier weight and putting in the tools in place so you don't just lose weight, but you keep it off. And as you lose weight, you're happy along the way. You're not dreading it. It's not horrible, so that it feels joyful and something you want to stick with.
I got a pretty alarming stat I wanted to share with you, just kind of get your take. And this is from an NIH study. I'll have all this linked in the show notes for everybody. In 2015, an estimated 93.3 million U.S. adults aged 20 years or older and about 13.7 million children aged less than 19 were obese.
Oh, yeah.
Obese. And by 2030, a projected 115 million adults will be obese in the USA.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're about like 40% obesity. It's wild. We're about 65% of Americans are either overweight or obese, which is why we want to be weird. Like, we're in a culture now, you want to be the weirdest one. So, I always tell this to my clients. Yes, people are going to judge you for being the one at dinner who's not drinking as much. People are going to judge you at dinner for asking for the salad and not having the fries, or not wanting the fried appetizers, and asking for steamed and making like all these modifications. That's okay. If you are doing something different than everyone else around you in America today, you are likely doing something right. Mm-hmm. So we have to change our mindsets, right? Because the normal thing should not be normalized, should not be normal. And I like to explain that to my kids too. Like, we call it the standard American diet. It's the SAD diet. And
the fact that acronym stuck and like the powers that be were cool with it being the SAD, it's like it's staring you in the face.
It's the chicken nuggets, it's the French fries, it's the hot dogs, it's the hamburgers, it's the pizza. Like, these are our standard American foods. And so even last night for dinner, we had shakshuka, which is like a Middle Eastern meal, which is very easy to make and like very inexpensive because it's like eggs and tomato sauce, essentially with pita. And I just loved that it wasn't a standard American food. Like, even if nutritionally it's similar to a burger and fries with a side salad, like, I just love that it's a little different. We have to be going upstream in today's day and age, because if we're not doing something that feels hard and different, we're going to be another one of these statistics.
Okay, interesting idea just came across my mind. So we were talking earlier, kind of like, different ethnicities and cultural backgrounds and how they influence the home, particularly when you're in, a multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-religious home. You have different foods from different cultural backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, Jewish background in your house, Persian background in mine. And I feel so much more confident about the future of our households because of the ethnicity difference in our foods.
Totally.
Which kind of lands me at the point or question, if we made more of a shift in America to prioritize ethnic foods.
Oh, it'd be amazing.
Get away from typical, quote, American food.
Yeah.
Do you think that would cause enough of a shift to get us on the right healthy track?
Oh my gosh, yes. If you look at even like Indian food and Mexican food, which is heavy, right? Like, Indian food and Mexican food, you have a lot of naan, you have a lot of rice, you have a lot of tortillas, you have a lot of rice. They can be very carby. They can have a lot of fried foods. But even still, just the fact that like you have chile, like you have cumin, you have saffron, these foods that are spicy, first of all, they're incredibly anti-inflammatory and good for us. Like the turmeric, one, they're just very healthy.
Saffron.
The paprika, wonderful for us. But two, they make you sweat. They make you react. They make you experience the food. They make you slow down, so you don't eat as quickly. So like just getting from quote unquote natural flavors or flavors to back to herbs and spices, even if you have the same composition of the main of the food, would be very helpful for us. So yes, it definitely has the power to shift. I just read, I'm reading right now this incredible book. It's changing my world. The author's name is Bozoma St. John. She was a top marketing exec at Uber, Netflix, and all these places. She just wrote this book that I'm sure will climb to be a bestseller. She's going to be on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills soon. She really is like taking over. She was a chief marketing officer at Netflix Global. Like, she really is the top of her game. Fascinating woman.
Looking her up right now.
Yeah, she says she's about 6 foot. She's African.
The Urgent Life?
The Urgent Life.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this is her book. And she has such an incredible story, so I'll just share it quickly. But she said that she's from Africa. She's from Ghana. So she's not just Black, she's African. And her parents were obsessed with being African, with everything, the music, the books, the culture, the style, the clothing, and especially the food of like eating Ghanaian food,
Ghanaian,
I think they call it. Yeah, Ghanaian.
Yeah.
And they moved to Connecticut when she was 12 or 13 years old. So this like preteen defining time of her life.
Contrast.
Yes.
Geez.
So she moves and she's surrounded by all these white kids and became good friends with this girl named Summer. Fair skin, bright blonde hair, like gold ringlets, bright green eyes. And here Bozoma is, she's like 6 foot tall as of a 12-year-old, and she's very dark skinned. She looks completely different than Summer. And she has a sleepover with Summer, and she tells her mom, can we please have pizza? Can you please just order McDonald's? Like I finally got in to fit in with all these white girls. I made this friend Summer, please, can we just have quote unquote normal American food? And her mom says, absolutely not. No way. We're going to have traditional food from Ghana. And Bozoma says that 30 years later, she's now still good friends with this girl named Summer. And Summer still asks for her mom's spinach stew. And it wasn't just spinach stew. It was spicy. Like she said that her fair-skinned friends were sweating eating this food in her house. And I think the stew is called fufu or whatever it is. But I just love that her mom didn't want her to just accept that she's Black and African. She wanted her to celebrate it.
Empowered. Yeah.
Empowered it. And she said that really changed her whole mind. And now this woman is literally like at the top of her possible game. And she's gone through so much else. So her book is amazing. But I love that story. I told it to my kids, like, because the whole concept that her mom taught her is like, you don't bend towards others. You have others bend to you. And you celebrate who you are and your background. And it really is sad and wild when you see how the shift towards these like bland tasting fried foods that are really just mostly carbs. And even the blue zones, which are the areas of the world where we see the greatest rates of longevity, you see even in these places like Ikaria, Greece and Okinawa, Japan, even though these people live to like 108 and had some of the lowest rates of cancers and heart disease, their grandkids now are not eating those same traditional foods. They've gone so far away from what made their grandparents so healthy and vibrant for so many years. And it's so sad to see that everyone's kind of gone to this standard American diet globally.
I have to kind of laugh, and I'll preface this by saying I do have a Middle Eastern wife. And so now I've become so much more aware of how white I am in terms of a lot, food, culture, upbringings, a lot of different things. And we were actually joking the other day talking about, she wanted to, I want to get this recipe from my mom and make more Persian food at home as we get ready to, to grow our family. And I was like, I can probably contribute a casserole recipe, and I was just like, we were joking, but that's kind of, I know a lot of people have family recipes and I'm sure a lot more elaborate dishes. I'm just speaking personally, but I mean, I got a great broccoli casserole dish that I love that, came from my upbringing, but I was just thinking how easy that is. It's simple ingredients and it's easy, right? Which as a parent, I'm sure easy matters in certain situations.
Totally.
But then I was thinking of the dishes that she wanted to make, the fesenjoon, the kebab, the
10
osh,
hours to
the halim, the things that take, hours.
Right.
Hours, but also you're in the kitchen, hours just you or less hours with the rest of your family members. And it's bonding.
Totally.
It's mindfulness, it's preparation, it's slow, and you're aware of every ingredient, and you're spending time with family. And then it's that much more savory and enjoyable. And it just got me more excited about the choices that we are making by ushering in the next generation of children because of this kind of ethnic mashup. If you will.
Yeah. I mean, that's like going back to my kids' relationship with food. I made a dish. I forgot what it was, but I spent a long time making this dish. And one of my kids even requested it. And then I made it. And it did take time. Like, let me tell you, it took time. And some of my kids liked it. And then one of my pickier kids did not. And just like threw it off as like, this is disgusting, and moved it. And I lost it. Like, I didn't lose it. I stayed calm, but I'm like, you're just not allowed to do that. Like, this is not a packaged, convenient thing that you're buying for 99 cents at 7-Eleven. I was in the kitchen. I took hours. I showed a lot of respect for the food and for you by making this dish. You can show some respect to me by saying, I need to get used to it. I don't like it yet. I tried it. I'm not in love with it. Like, give like show respect. And I think that is also very healthy because again, we're here helping. We want these kids to grow up and not embarrass themselves and us like out in the real world. You can't just go to a restaurant and just like or a friend's house and just say this is disgusting. Like, and it's a mutual respect thing and it's a behavior thing and our relationship with food thing. And again, like there are a lot of ethnic cultures. You're not going to see a kid that just can pull off that like spoiled, very American style, like, I don't like this. Like, it's just, so I'm very in tune with teaching parents the same thing. Like, and when you raise your kids, even very picky eaters, they tend to be very picky with lots of things. The shampoo that they like isn't perfect. The toy that you got them, they're not grateful for. You know, showing some gratitude towards food is a very healthy way to raise kids well.
And I have to imagine that kind of approach that you have helped them create of reading the label, the nutrition facts, is carrying over into the shampoos and the other products. I mean, it starts in the kitchen, starts with nutrition, but the level of awareness that you are helping your children and, you know, other children and families develop has to have this carryover effect into everything.
I just
clean
explained,
foods, clean products, clean homes,
clean
everything.
air.
Yeah.
You know, one of the interesting things is that like our air quality sometimes is worse inside our house than outside our house. So we always think like poor air quality, we live by a highway, that type of thing. But inside our house, if you're using lots of, you know, chemical type cleaning products that aren't so great, then that leaches into the air. And sometimes literally in your own house, the air quality is worse because of all the cleaning products. So, you know, my husband like went to the store to get, you know, dish soap or whatever, and he went to the one that's like 50 cents cheaper, and I get it. But, you know, I was explaining to him and then explaining also to my kids, so they hold him accountable. It's like a 50, and also there's so many cheap ways. Like we use vinegar and water and just essential oils like lemon balm. Like it definitely does not have to be more expensive. You can bulk buy and then put them in smaller containers. But I literally just explained this to my husband in front of all my kids and made sure that they understood at a really basic understanding level so that they are just more conscious about the world around them.
I love that.
Without judgment, but just, you know, trying to do better.
I have some quotes that I've found from your work and other interviews and stuff, and we'd love to kind of just get your take here on the show with them. Living in America can sometimes feel like being on a conveyor belt towards weight gain. What does, and we've kind of hit on this a little bit, but what does specifically living in America have to do with weight gain?
I mean, we are in an obesity-laden society. Like everything around us is pushing us to be more obese. Like highways or car culture, you know, not very walkable. Like our screen time, our obsession with screens, like social media addiction, the fact that we don't spend as much time with family, we're becoming less and less religious as a culture, you know, people are having less kids. Like it's just, we're like moving away from what's kept us healthy, mind and body. And our shopping carts are getting larger. Like, you know, I love Costco. I'm not going to shame on them. I didn't use Costco for a long time. Now I find it's great for healthy products and fruits and vegetables. But the big box stores where the potato chip bags are, you know, 16 servings. And then if you look at our commercials are pushing not just food all the time and pharmaceuticals, but they're also pushing emotional eating. Like there's chocolate advertisements where you see a mom in a closet and the kids are banging and she's like locked herself in the closet with a bag of Dove chocolates or Bliss chocolates, and she's in Bliss, like hiding from her kids. Like it's literally, we are telling people to stress eat because the food companies see, well, people are always stressed, and now if they eat every time they're stressed, then they're going to buy more food and then we're going to make more money in our pockets. If you go to the French culture, they eat plenty of chocolate. It's not out of stress. It's actually out of joy. So yeah, like it's really, sadly, everything in our culture and our environment is really pushing us towards just sadly being more obese, like, and everywhere you look. So you got to be weird. You got to be different in this culture.
I want to share a little story, get your take on it. We, 2 Christmases ago and New Year's, my wife and I went to Paris, and like it often does in Paris, it rains. And so I had this little morning rainy walk and I found a cafe and I ordered an espresso. And me, typical American, I'm expecting a double espresso. I want more, right? I want the bigger, I want more caffeine. And they gave me an espresso and it was a single. And I caught myself. And instead of going, no, I wanted a double, which in my mind was just me pressing my American expectation. And I'm like, no, Chase, relax. You're not in America. This is the way they served it. Enjoy it. And I sat there, and the way that I savored that single shot of espresso, sitting on the cafe on the corner, just staring out in the rain, transformed what I already thought was a pretty healthy approach to eating and to enjoying certain things when it comes to food and drink. And ever since then, I've had this level of appreciation and savoring with food, with espresso, with drinks. Now when I get an espresso, I'll get a single. Now when I don't really drink alcohol that much anymore, but when I do, I will specifically ask them to either pour me a glass in like a little carafe. That way I can control the pour, and I'll have maybe half a glass. Or at home, I'll literally just do maybe like a 3-second pour. And I have just found this new appreciation, 2 years, not so much new anymore, of just savoring.
Yeah.
And it has drastically kind of passively helped me cut caffeine consumption, alcohol, portion control. What is your take on other cultures, other countries, and the way that they seem to just have a level of savoring,
that respecting
we are lacking in America? Yeah. Is it a respect thing?
It really is. Like, they respect eating times and not eating times, versus in America, everything is an eating time. Like, when you're watching sports, when it's Super Bowl season, which is, I guess, coming up in January, it's unbelievable how they're literally there's millions of recipes for just watching a sports game. Like, you can't just watch a sports game without it being an eating opportunity. When people are walking on the streets, like I just went to Japan, you're not allowed to eat on the subway. Like, they're so clean. They don't eat on the subway. Even when there's like, they have their version of vending machine food and food truck situation, but no one's eating while walking. They get it from the pop-up and then they sit and they eat. This is an eating time. This is a walking time. This is a working time. Like right now, if you Google, snacks to keep at your desk, like you're going to find bajillion, it's like we are always eating. We have no respect for eating times, and our kids are constantly snacking. There's no meal time. They're not even hungry for meals because they've been snacking for so long. So yeah, it's definitely wonderful to travel. I mean, there's so many things. That's definitely the mindset around food is different. They don't eat out of stress. Like, it doesn't even, if you said that to people in different cultures, like they would look at you like, why would you eat a chocolate or a croissant
they would
from
just laugh
stress?
And go, American.
Right. Like and if you, it's so sad. Like, if you ever see videos of them interviewing, like, what do you think of America? And they always say like, so obese or eating junk food all the time. And you want to be like, that's not true. And you're like, in a lot of places it is. So yeah, I mean, just a respect for eating times and not eating times for sure. Having family meals, sitting down, enjoying it. Also, the food differences are massive. Like almost every other country I visited, I see vegetables at a breakfast buffet. So if I stay at a hotel and it includes breakfast, you see vegetables everywhere. Like Iceland, even in the winter when it's not sun and you can't really grow things on any farm, you still see like beets, a beet salad at breakfast, or sauteed potatoes with peppers and onions. And then you go to Israel, it's like 80% vegetables. It's shakshuka, even instead of scrambled eggs, it's on top of stewed tomatoes. There's vegetables everywhere. Japan, they have like all these fermented vegetables at breakfast. They're having miso soup at breakfast with seaweed floating in it. So it's just in every other culture. In America, if you go to a standard breakfast buffet, it's literally just whites and grays. Yeah, like you maybe get the sugary yogurts,
pastries,
it's
cereal.
Tons of pastries. You got bagels, cream cheese, different cereals, milk. Like you got maybe scrambled eggs, which are half egg, half cream or butter, or a modified version of them. It's like, it's just
I won't get any
crazy.
of that. If they have it, I'll only do the hard-boiled eggs, because at least then I know it's a real egg.
Totally. And then real fruit. Like if you can get an apple and strawberries, like that's definitely the way to go about it. The single ingredient things that are great. But and yes, like you might find a banana wrapped in saran wrap that you can get your hands on, but it's just so white and gray. And I think one of the worst parts of the American culture and how it's impacted our obesity epidemic that we have to reverse is the relationship with veggies, is the relationship with vegetables. I think every other culture and country I've ever visited, they celebrate vegetables. It's part of the cuisine. It flavors the cuisine. In America, people look at it as like, oh, you eat vegetables because you're on a diet or because you're trying to be healthy, not just because it has flavor. It's delicious. It's part of the meal. A meal is not complete without it. So that's definitely something with children. Like you got to make sure they normalize eating vegetables, that it's not like a chore. It's normal. It's normal to eat these foods.
All right, let me get away from the section where everyone assumes Chase is just crapping on America.
Yeah.
I'll reiterate. I think
we need help. We need
need help. We do. We really do. But it is probably one of the most eye-opening experiences in terms of my mindset, but also my choices when it comes to healthy habits, nutrition, is travel. Getting out of my zip code, getting out of the country, and just seeing how other cultures and ethnic groups and just walks of life, how they build life around food in a totally different way, I think is just one of the most underestimated tools when it comes to healthy habits and behavior change. You mentioned religion earlier. What role do you think religion plays in our level of obesity? Would you say
so big?
The more obese we get in America, are we getting further away from religion?
Absolutely.
Do you find more religious people are less obese? How do they kind of connect there?
Well, you see it 100%. You see different rates of longevity, and you also see different rates of stress, right? So like when people are typically a part of a religion, there's usually community built in. So it's not always, but it usually is a piece of it. Like I'm Jewish, and in order to pray, men need 10 other men. You need 9 other men. You need to have 10 men together in order to pray. And the thinking was always that women tend to be social as it is, but men can really get isolated. And so that's like one of the thinkings, is that it keeps men engaged and social. And there's like a big crisis now in lonely men. Like you're literally seeing it in suicide rates since 2020. People got very isolated. A lot of
guests and topics covering that this year, yeah.
It's really interesting. And even my husband, like he can just, I'll go out with girlfriends, I'll do meetups, I'll do these things. And then, he works from home. Like, you got to get out more. And thankfully he has that accountability, that he goes to pray at least, once a week on Saturdays, and like has that social engagement. So I think that alone just makes people healthier. I mean, and we see that even with the blue zones and people and longevity rates is really feeling a strong sense of community.
One of them is the Seventh-day Adventist.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think the strong sense of community is key. Other ways in which religion plays a role in obesity, I mean, there's so many. I obviously know my religion the most, but we have a very strong concept of don't harm your body. It's one of the reasons why and
obesity falls underneath that.
Absolutely. At least that's how I like to explain it to my kids, and if I'm ever speaking at any Jewish function, I always like to reiterate that, is it's literally written in our laws, like don't harm your body. And there's so many examples of like, you can't, it's one of the reasons why Orthodox Jews don't get tattoos, because it's looked at as like harming the body. So to interpret it as, I've spoken to so many rabbis about this, like to interpret it as, caring for the nutrition, it really goes hand in hand. There's a lot of guilt people have about wasting food. It's considered a sin to waste food. And so a lot of people tell me like, oh, I kept eating because I didn't want to be wasteful. But then I've spoken to rabbis.
You try to abide by one rule,
right? Exactly.
Breaking another potentially.
So I had to speak to a rabbi because I had this issue with one of my Orthodox Jewish clients. I'm like, how do I mean, this can't be good, right? Yeah. And so he said that it's actually a double sin to be eating food like just leftovers when you're not hungry, because one, you're still wasting. The food isn't going magically to a starving kid in China. Like it's still being wasteful. Like it's still more than your need, and you have the added thing where now you're harming yourself. So I think when you just look at being part of a community or just having a higher power or a higher purpose, I think it can definitely make an impact. And I think, honestly, it doesn't have to be a religion, but anyone who shows gratitude for the world around them and is just very spiritual and connected with nature. It's very hard to be very spiritual and connected with nature, which is an amazing part of Japan, by the way, like forest bathing, and it's part of their longevity as well. They're very connected to nature, and they have all these gods they worship to plants, they worship to fish. Like they have all these different parts of nature that they're really praying to daily, like to then go eat a packaged snack with hundreds of ingredients. It's so far away from food. And so I think it doesn't have to necessarily be a religion, but just a respect of nature, where food comes from, taking care of our own selves. I think it can be a protective against obesity in a lot of ways.
Sure, yeah. And I don't disagree with the fact that I think however it happens, when a human being becomes obese, it causes harm on the body in a lot of different ways.
Totally.
Inflammation, just, everything. But then when you add the religious aspect to it, do you worry that, it becomes more of a mental health concern because they don't want to waste food? Here it's a double sin. So I'm gaining weight, but that's only counts as one sin. And excuse me if I'm mistaken here, but it counts as one sin. But if I, waste of food, it's a double sin. So then it's like the religious fear, and I see that a lot. I come from a Christian background.
Well, he's saying no, it's a double sin to keep eating when you're full.
Okay,
that's what he said. It's because it's still wasteful and you're harming your body. Like the priority should be keeping your body healthy.
Okay. Well, where I'm going with that is just, kind of my upbringing in, Christianity, and especially Southern Baptist, is there's a lot of that guilt around making the right choice with your life, with your body, sexual choices, out of fear of shame and sinning and burning in hell kind of stuff. That I think
if it's stressful, that's a counter. It has a counter effect.
So how do then, through the lens of religion, how do we make the best choice and the least sinful choice and honor our body and not, add on that potential future stress of, the mental health weight of am I sinning more than I need to be?
You know what? I always say mental health is priority. Like my husband and I, we always say mental health comes first, even with getting presents, when he says like, oh, I want to get you a present. It's our anniversary. I want to get you a necklace. I'm like, there's this really I want a 10-pack to my favorite yoga studio. I think mental health comes first. I think it's everything in balance. Like if the religion is causing too much stress, that it's causing you to stress eat, that's counterintuitive. So it should be the thing that's working for you long term. I do think though that a lot of people think that the best thing to do is take the easy way route. Like I don't want to uphold to these laws because it's too hard and stressful. And sometimes boundaries create freedom and some discipline helps us in life. So, you don't want to overstress yourself, but you don't want to make things too easy on you either. And so having some disciplinary, things to follow that keep you in line and give you structure and routine, I think overall are better for mental well-being.
I agree. Yeah. As we kind of get towards the end here, I would love to kind of have you share a little bit of your backstory because, here you are, you're just this person sharing a lot of great information. You mentioned you're a registered dietitian, but you also have a really personal backstory with your own struggle with food, your own struggle with weight gain, weight loss. And if you could, can you take us back to that moment where you were sent off to quote fat camp and tell us about that? And is there anything you want to say to your younger self, to that little girl around her confusion around eating habits now?
Yeah, I was always overweight as early as I can remember. My parents got divorced when I was, 3 and 4 years old, and I turned to food without knowing it, that food was my source of comfort. I was very alone as a kid. My parents were off dating others. My siblings were much older than me, so I was alone in the kitchen, completely unsupervised, eating my way through the pantry for just years of loneliness and sadness, to the point where I got so obese, my doctor sent me to fat camp at 8 years old because my cholesterol levels, my blood sugar levels, everything was completely out of whack. And I just lost 30 pounds in the summer, went right back to my kitchen stool, gained 50 back in the school year.
Can you go back real quick? When you say fat camp, what did that look like? What did a day in fat camp look like for you?
Yeah, there was even an MTV special that was filmed while I was there. It was, you wake up, you have morning stretch, you get your portion controlled breakfast.
This sounds like the movie Heavyweights.
It was Heavyweights. It was Heavyweights all through and through. And the funny thing is they would have us watch Heavyweights. We watched Heavyweights at fat camp on rainy days when we would watch movies.
Lunch is canceled due to a lack of hustle.
Yeah, literally Heavyweights. We watched it there.
That's such a
I know.
mindfuck.
I know, so bizarre.
God.
It's exactly the movie. If anyone's interested, watch it. It's hilarious and it's pretty spot on in a lot of ways. Yeah, we had aerobics, Taekwondo, kickboxing. You get your portion controlled meal. You then had to walk a mile after every meal, up this massive hill. So yeah, it was a super idealistic, unrealistic plan, right? There was no way I was going to maintain that or sustain it. I would go for 9 weeks as an 8-year-old, which is insane to me because now my daughter was 9 and I sent her for 4 weeks to camp, and that felt like a big push. But I think camp is good. It taught me to be independent, and it actually gave me at a very young age this positive relationship with weight loss, because when we would lose weight, we would like high five each other, and it became an activity. And summer camp became this like little escape where I would not have to stress or work so hard to get the results I think I wanted, but then I would just come back and gain it all. So I kept doing that yo-yo dieting pattern for years where it's hard to even think now, like, did I eat extra during the school year because I knew I was going to go back to camp?
Oh, you know? Wow. What a interesting thought.
Because I see people do that with dieting now, where they almost like at the end of December.
I know I'm going to go on a diet, so let me just kind of sprint to that finish line.
And I don't know if I was consciously doing that or not. It's just something I'm reflecting on and wondering if it was lingering there. But yeah, that became my whole childhood essentially until I was about 13 going into high school, where I had this, change of mindset where I was like, enough is enough. This is my only body. I only get one. I might as well make it rock. I have to really just change everything I'm doing. My parents aren't going to teach me what to do because they don't have a healthy relationship with food. So I have to figure this out on my own. And it started working. All my little hacks and tips that I share within my first book, You Can Drop It, turned that really into a working system. I ended up losing 50 pounds through high school, another 50, through college and after, and having my kids. And I've now kept it off this 100 pounds while helping, thousands of people around the world do it too, with a very simple, sensible, and sustainable approach.
You got me thinking, something you said there kind of made me think about if there is, let's say, a child listening, someone who is still under the roof in support of their parents, and they're going, I don't get this kind of support. I don't have this kind of conversation, these kind of conversations. There isn't this approach. What can a child do? What can someone do in that situation to really know that they can make choices without the supervision or guidance of their parent? They feel like they're not getting it.
Yeah. Well, one, I would ask your parents to get the program Raising Balanced Eaters.
Get the book, everybody.
Yeah, my kids' nutrition program. I just think it's the program that I wish that my parents had and my parents wish they had, it wasn't ideal for them to send me off to weight loss camp. I think if they just watched, these modules, I could have been a lot better off. So, I definitely created this nutrition program as that antidote for all the harms I was facing. But I'd say to the kid, your childhood does not have to define you. I looked a lot different as a kid. I feel a million times better now. So one is just knowing it's possible. I think that was really something I had to grapple with. It's worth effort because you can do this. Just believe you can. And every choice does make a difference. Sometimes people are like, what's the difference? I'm so overweight anyway. Why not just eat all the pizza and fries? No, getting the pizza with the side salad and not the fries, it actually does make a difference. Every choice makes a difference. Drinking the water instead of the juices, drinking the water, sparkling water instead of the sodas. It really does all add up. It's kind of amazing. So learn to love veggies. Don't stigmatize them. Dip them in ketchup or ranch or put cheese on it, whatever you have to do to start eating them and liking them. Don't be picky. Be open-minded because food is flavorful and at first tastes different, but that doesn't mean you're not going to like it after you try it a couple more times. So keep going, get healthy.
What would you say if you were 9 years old when you went away?
Yeah, 8.
8, okay. You're looking at 8-year-old Ilana. What do you want to say to 8-year-old Ilana to know that everything is going to be okay? And even kind of piggyback that with someone listening right now struggling with weight loss and nutrition choices because they have been in those shoes, those 8-year-old shoes of whatever the household looked like, being overweight as a kid. How can we look at our inner child and help that version of ourselves to help us here today?
Yeah, I think it's knowing you'll be okay, but knowing it needs to be one foot in front of the other. Don't move backwards. And anyone starting a weight loss journey, you can lose weight. You don't want to regain it, So I always focus on 2 pounds at a time, 2 pounds at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 step at a time. Just keep moving forward don't self-sabotage yourself. Don't go backwards. Don't make that a possibility. It's like every step you make, it could be small, it could be subtle, but you want it to be permanent. You want it to be like, keep unraveling the layers that have brought you here and get back to the core of what's going to help you moving forward. Like one layer, one step, every 2 pounds at a time. That's like what I would tell my younger self is like,
all right,
keep going.
Well, moving forward is what we're all about. So my final question I ask everybody is ever forward. Those 2 words, what do they mean to you, Ilana?
1% better every day. Like don't judge yourself about the past. Don't beat yourself up for what your life looks like now, what things are going on now. Just be 1% better. There's a lot of times I get guilt. I could have done things better. I wish I didn't do things. I wish I didn't eat things, say things, all this stuff. But like, you just have to pledge to be ever forward, to just be 1% better the next day.
No right or wrong answer. Thank you for your interpretation. I'm gonna have everything linked in the show notes and the video description box for everybody. But your books, you can drop it. And the new cookbook, Love the Food That Loves You Back. And if you're a cinnamon roll fanatic like me, you're just gonna lock eyes on this on the front. An incredible recipe inside is waiting for us. Where can they go to connect with you and learn more about your world?
I'm on all socials: TikTok, Nutrition Babe; Instagram, Ilana Muhlstein RD; YouTube, Pinterest. Website is ilanamuhlstein.com. So everywhere.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And I got to go cook these cinnamon rolls.
Go
so
for
let's
it.
get out of here. All right.
Thank you.